So the next panel, I'm really excited. Like Gary set that up very successfully. A ballroom is so much more than just that. I don't even truly know why we're calling it a ballroom anymore. I don't know that most hotels are exclusively using these for balls, but they're used for so much more. They're used for talks. They're used for, like Gary said, conventions, lunches, so many things. And it's kind of like AV has so much on its shoulders to make sure that these spaces within hotels can handle all of these different things. So our next panel is going to explore how AV can really help and create this. So welcome everybody. I'm going to have you all just kind of go around and introduce yourselves first of all. Talk a little bit about who you are, the type of work that you do, and your experience within the hotel or hospitality space. Mark, do you want to start?
Sure. Thanks, Steph, for having me.
Of course.
My name is Mark Insiglio. I am at Strategic Account Manager at Four Wall Entertainment, which puts me on the outside AV space. But for almost 20 years, I was on the inside AV space with PSAV, Encore, and all the other names that they were before that. So very, very familiar with transforming ballrooms. You bring up a good point. I don't know why we still call them ballrooms, but they're large event spaces. And for the better part of the last 25 years, we've been trying to figure out how to turn them into event spaces that are just for your corporate events, but also maybe a combination of a gala or maybe sometimes even concerts. So exactly. So that's a little bit about what I've been doing for a long time.
Very cool. Tasha, what about you?
Yes, Steph, thanks so much for the invitation. I'm just delighted to be here, both representing women in hospitality. I've been with Hilton brand for 15 years now. I'm a director of sales and marketing on location at a facility. So getting to live those everyday experiences of transitioning a ballroom from what it could be and selling the dream to, making it into something that you couldn't even imagine it would be. So we partner with audiovisual company to make that happen.
Very cool. And Misha, what about you? Am I pronouncing your name right?
It's Micah.
Micah, okay, sorry about that.
That's all right. I'm Micah Crodell. I sort of find myself in the middle of Tasha and Mark's experience, where the majority of my career has been spent in the hotel space as director of sales and marketing for within that space about 20 years, recently pivoting to the audiovisual technology field about a year ago. And so I really love being on this side of things. It's a different perspective. I've learned a lot, but it's an interesting thing when we do talk about the ballrooms and integrators and those on-site AV partners. I'm excited to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Y'all are all incredible people, and I'm really glad y'all all are kind of coming in from different areas. So I'm excited because I think you're all going to have like really cool perspectives on all the questions. So let's dive right in, because how do we think that the technology that's out there, the ProAV technology, and then even other technology, can elevate this versatility of hotel ballrooms to cater to this wider range of events? Like you guys were saying, everything from a gala to a potential concert to a luncheon. How can technology be put into these spaces to help it accommodate all of this? And this is for whoever wants to answer first.
I can hop in. From my perspective, it's atmosphere, it's temperature, it's climate, it's taking everything in a room from a blog array, and it's reinventing that. So determining what the client is looking for from their perspective, and what do you imagine it to be? Is it a trade show, or is it something that you're trying to a pageant that you're trying to showcase? And I think technology brings in the warmth, or it can cool something down, it can elevate it, it can really make it look a little more buttoned up and more professional, or it could be a very formal or a very informal thing too. It can make it playful and fun and inviting. From my perspective, it makes all the difference in the world.
Very cool. Micah, what about you? You want to hop in?
I'm sure. I 100% agree. And we kind of take this to, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? Those fundamental things that exist in a ballroom from a permanent installation standpoint, right? So we want to make sure that the displays are flexible and going to deliver the message that our clients desperately need to have right in that space. We have these integrated lighting systems that allow the space to cool. To Tosh's point, it can really control the atmosphere in that way. And then, of course, we have all of those, the sound. It's an immersive experience, starts with sound, in my opinion, right? So we have to have those systems that allow us to build on top of, if we need to navigate those different events. You mentioned concerts. That's a different, audio element versus a conference with a speaker. So, yeah, I think all of those things are extremely important.
Very cool. Mark, what do you think?
I think Micah and Tasha, they hit the nail on the head. From my perspective, the most important piece is the messaging. So when people come to us looking for solutions, they're not saying, I need this many mics or I need these screens. They're saying, here's the message that we're trying to present. And that message is constantly being stepped up year over year because we have to keep people coming to these events, and we have to, find 7 ways to say the same thing so that it stays with people in their minds. So the problem solving for us in how to keep the ballroom sustainable with all the technologies so that people still want to come to these events is always keeping the messaging first and foremost, and then building the technology around that. And I think that's where a lot of the AV providers, as well as the manufacturers, have come a long way in creating either new product lines or combining some product lines so that we can capture a lot of different types of events with one gear pull. We could do a concert and a general session and a gala in the same room with all the same equipment, because a lot of the manufacturers have heard our cries that the messaging, we can't tear down the gala and put up a concert sound system in 10 minutes. So how can we make this more flexible? And I think that's been really key.
So you guys all kind of mentioned audio a little bit. So in what ways do advanced audio systems contribute to enhancing this overall atmosphere and guest experience? But how do they also help it be flexible and help it be able to do all of these different events that sometimes only need one person on stage with a mic, and sometimes everyone in the room needs to be mic'd? How can an advanced audio system potentially handle all of this?
I think from a hotel perspective, it makes all the difference in the world. And that's one of the things when you sell things smartly, the ballroom is the basis. It's the ground layer. And that audio system is really equipped for what we're doing as far as just speaking and talking into a microphone. But much more than that, it can't really handle. So I think partnering with the right AV company and making sure that you do have the right switches in the room, the right microphones, and having, an AV partner that has the knowledge to say, okay, you're going to have a panel on stage of 5, but you've got roaming microphones and we don't want to have feedback. It makes all the difference in the world, especially to, a person that the audiovisual isn't my niche. I think we rely heavily on those experts to tell us this is what it needs to be. And I think that's the smartest way to do it is to enlist, the technology and the capability of what it can do, and understand up front that when you're talking to a client that it's worth every single penny to make it flawless.
Micah, do you want to go next?
It's hard to top that. She said it all. I agree. So audience interaction and engagement is key, right, in all of these events that we're doing. That's why we're in this room. That's why we're here. So I think, again, working with to Tasha's point, that your in-house audiovisual partner, maybe even off-site audiovisual partner, to really clearly define what the client's needs are and to be able to deliver those solutions with a professional audio engineer that can support those needs. So, everyone hears the message clearly, they understand why they're there, and the key takeaways. So there's a lot of investment in events, holding events. And so if our message isn't clearly communicated, then we're falling short.
My turn. I think thinking from the perspective of working with someone like Tasha in the past on the hotel side, one of the things that's been really interesting with audio systems over the past 10 or 15 years has been the technology hasn't changed too much. We've gone to digital, and we've had some RF issues with wireless microphones and things like that. But the technology itself, it's microphones make noise out of speakers, and that hasn't really changed. What's come along is thinking about the venue and how you don't want this beautiful ballroom to have these giant stacks of speakers hanging from the ceiling necessarily all the time, and being able to work with column arrays and being able to drive individual drivers within the speaker to hit certain parts of an audience, so that you can have a sexy speaker system and really drive home, maybe the love and effort that went into designing that ballroom and what it actually is, rather than take it all away with these clusters of speakers hanging from the ceiling or stacked on the ground. I think we've come a long way to make smaller, more compact, sleeker speakers as loud as some of the larger systems.
Mark, would you say we've come a long way from the Grateful Dead's Wall of Sound?
We've come a long way from the Wall of Sound. That's a picture that we use in sales pitches a lot. Look where we are now.
Good points all around. I would like to ask, just what are some key consideration that hoteliers should keep in mind when investing in ProAV technology to upgrade these event spaces?
I would love to take that one first, Steph.
Of course, go ahead.
It's the service that goes along with it. The number one thing is always thinking about you're making an investment, and it's likely a capital investment that is, CapEx over however many years. Don't necessarily squander the service side of it. And that doesn't only mean when you need to turn it on, how do you turn it on, or what kind of support are you going to have when it inevitably doesn't work anymore? Who do you call, and how are you prepared? The untying knots and going in and saving some of these systems is there are companies that just do that. So I think if you're a hotelier and you're really thinking about how to upgrade your space, how to maybe be a little cutting edge, definitely don't sweat the service side of it. It's equally, if not more important than the products and the gear themselves.
I would 100% agree with Mark. And when we work with our partners in this space, we really lean into that partnership. We offer, obviously, install to service to live event production services. So really choosing a partner that can go with you through all of those stages and all of those needs is so important. You can count on them. You can call on them. They're going to come service your equipment and make sure that it's working for those key moments. So hopefully you don't have failure in the middle of that big speaker moment or whatever the case might be. But we really focus on scalability too. We understand that CapEx exists, but we also understand that phases might be a good fit. So how do we choose a system and install a system that allows us to scale and to improve on that, and eventually stay on top of that technology and on the cutting edge of things?
I couldn't agree with Mark and Micah more. For me, working on the hotel side, you get the initial outlay of what your audiovisual is going to be. And I think one thing to remember is to keep it flexible, because we have a ballroom where if we put too many permanent things in it, then you lose some of that flexibility we talked about in the first question, as far as how to transform it. Well, if I have a screen over here and a screen over here, then this is the only direction I can face. So one recommendation is don't make it too permanent, because when you do that, you put limitations on the space. And then like Micah said, having a partner that can grow with you. Every year we do annual small upgrades, and we rely on our in-house audiovisual company and our installer, they do both, to give us recommendations about what are small things that we can tweak. Can we add, upgrade to digital reader boards? Can we do, small things like for the functionality that Mark was talking about as far as the customer service, small things that can make a big impact. So relying on that expertise of that company to give you those recommendations. And then when you do those big projects, what are things that you missed the first go around? Like I'm at a property that I've been at for 10 years, and we're looking at, this 10-year milestone where we opened and it had beautiful, great things, but now we're thinking about running cables through the ceiling so they're seamless, and making them accessible through the walls where you don't have to tape things down anymore, because who tapes things down anymore, Right. So I think just hotels, it's laughable, but it's also a real problem in hotels, because you do get, every 10 years so much money to spend, and you want to do it frugally, but you want to do it smart as well as great customer service. So there's a balance between, the look and the application. And I think you have to make smart decisions.
You guys brought up a point that kind of led me to a question that I also wanted to ask. So where is the line between installing, you can't install too much fixed technology into these spaces, of course, because you want it to have flexibility, but you also don't want to only have little pieces and parts that are made to be moved around the whole time. This might be just an impossible question that no one can answer, but where is the line between wanting certain things to be installed to be fixed and certain things that are made to be flexible and made to be moved around?
For me, it's the standard things you use every day, making sure they're the highest quality. If I know that every day I'm going to use, a certain type of power draw, or I'm going to use a certain light, like we have basic lighting that work really great for maybe 5 different types of meetings. So for me, that's a proper investment, because if somebody's going to come in and have a U-shaped board meeting, it works great. And so I think the tipping point is when the technology exceeds the day-to-day need. When you get into the specialization, that's when you leave it to the professionals. When it gets too specialized, because if I can run it and it's got a master switch and like 10 maybe flip switches behind it, I'm good. But when you get to a switcher and having to run that, I can turn on the microphone, but that's as far as I go.
That's fair.
I agree with Tasha. I don't think you want to permanently install. You don't want to go overboard. You can also, it can be a challenge to work around that when you need to. So yeah, I 100% agree. Mark, do you have any from your side, your point of view? I'm interested.
I think for me, it's a little bit more what Tasha was saying, like if you want lighting for a space and you want that to be something that's more mood lighting, we might put LED lighting in the ceiling so that you can say, we want reds, we want blues. That's really popular. I would install things like that. I don't necessarily think I would want anything to be permanent that decreases the flexibility that we spoke about before. For me, it would be, screens, projectors, mics, speakers, and like stage lighting. But if networking and Dante ports and walls and power drops, things like that, if those things were installed, and that seems to be kind of the standard in most hotels now, is networking, power, and even rigging are the things that are what we focus on as far as systems and installation go. And then everything else is custom per show, and that's really what we're selling to our customers and to our hotelier partners. I think that's the best approach, but also I'm an outside AV person, so of course I'm going to say that.
Fair. Well, okay, so there's a lot of demand right now for both hybrid and virtual events as well. So I was wondering if, you guys in the hospitality community are seeing that, maybe someone wants to do a hybrid event in this ballroom space. How can hotels leverage all of this technology that's available and out there to accommodate both these in-person and remote attendees for these events?
So I'll take this first. For me, it is really educating the user, because a lot of users think that it is super easy to do a live feed and have everything captured by their cell phone of what is happening on stage to the attendees that are listening online, and have a great audiovisual system to get that message back, and they can do it all themselves with one little owl. And it's going to be great. There's 300 people in the room and we're going to be able to do it, no problem. I think that's the biggest thing, is educating people about what you need. And you need to have a camera in the room that is shooting the stage and the panel, and you need to have these roving microphones, and really articulating why that will make the event better. And I think the thing that we see the most is failures when it comes to, I want to just bring it in and do it myself. And then you get 20 minutes into a live feed and someone's, boss is panicking and they want you to fix it. And the systems take some time to get set up. And so I think really, really educating on the front end and helping them understand that, the goal isn't to charge you the most amount of money. It's to give you the best experience.
Right.
And we want you to not have gaps in, delays. We want to download videos in advance, and not just mean where you click on them and try to download them while it's all happening. We have them downloaded and on a format where it can play and be very easily digested by the audience. So from a hotel perspective, I think that's the best thing we could do.
I don't have a ton of technical knowledge when it comes to the equipment itself, but I will say some of the challenges we face is just to Tasha's point, where that extra, cost associated with doing it right could be a little intimidating, but with the investment of really providing an immersive environment for your virtual attendees so they can see it and hear it and feel it just like if you were in the room, that's unmatched. It's priceless, right? And then to be able to hold that video, that capture, and then use that to, continue education or on your websites or your social media. And it provides so much flexibility in this space, and to really partner with an audiovisual professional in that environment, I think is the best way to go. We've all tried to pop open our laptops and have a virtual meeting in a boardroom, right?
And I'm a firm believer the pandemic ruined us in this capacity.
It surely did.
Everybody thinks they're a professional.
Changed the game for sure. Yeah.
It's funny, Tasha, because I feel like a lot of great things came out of the technology, like Zoom. I mean, before that, I remember we Skyped everybody and it was one-to-one, and maybe we'd have other people on from time to time. But I do feel like the pandemic really created that hybrid model. And what's interesting is when you think hybrid, you think it's a live event and a digital event, but people think that a hybrid event's budget should be half of what a live event is, when it should really be above a live event, but maybe not a full-on virtual. So it's strange to me, because there are extra things that you need, like Tasha said. You are going to need everything that you need for the room, but you also need everything for the audience, and for the ability for the audience that's virtual to communicate with the room. I mean, that's a lot of extra stuff that I feel like we got over that hurdle a little bit.
Yeah,
but on the hotelier is much more comfortable with us pitching hybrid events, not virtual. Virtual takes everybody out of the hotel. It takes everyone out of the ballroom. So there's not a lot of sales process at the hotel level for virtual. But on the hybrid side of things, I think if we can just make sure the meeting planners and the event planners understand it's hybrid plus, it's live event plus, then things would be fine. It's not as easy just setting your computer up and plugging it into the sound system and hoping everyone can hear.
Someone in the audience made a comment of how people often want to use the unpaid Wi-Fi to stream the whole thing.
Mhm.
And like maybe that's not gonna work. You need a lot of bandwidth, you guys. But yeah, all really, really good points. So kind of looking toward the future, how do you guys foresee the future of event spaces evolving with these advancements in technology? And what emerging technologies should hoteliers keep an eye out for and be prepared for?
I can take this one again first if you want.
Yeah, go for it. This is free for all, whoever
I
wants.
feel rude going first, so I'm just letting everyone else.
He's gonna let the ladies go first. I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Cervelli's 2024 hot list. He does a hot list every year, and there were a couple of things on it this year that really stuck out to me from a integration of, the AV technology side of things with a immersive event. One of them was called Froggy Fog, and basically what they do is they take the scented fog that smells like cotton candy or a different scent, and it changes. It's one more activation of senses. And I think we've always been about activation of senses, the sound, the sight, the touch of things, and to be able to integrate smell into that and transform spaces. I think that's one thing. And then on his hot list, there was also another company that's called House of Attention, and they do like shaken beverages that are delivered by drones. And so the bartender is shaking the beverage, they put it on a drone, and it sends it across the room to somebody else. And it's an activation of things. And I know sometimes these things can lend to like almost a gimmicky feel, but I think what Mark was talking about early in the interview when he said, we're trying to deliver a message, and we're going to do it in a different way. I think that audiences now demand new things and they get excited by them. And I think the evolution of adding those things in supplementally and understanding that, yes, you have to have that core layer of all the amazing things that we've talked about thus far. But I also think the innovation and the creativity, there's just a whole new world to explore.
And those are things that people remember when they leave an event, right? So if it was an enchanted forest gala and the fog all smelled like fresh pine, like people are going to remember that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now imagine that forest being, projected on all of the walls around you, and the trees are moving and the sounds carry the feel. And, you're transforming this ballroom, maybe in the middle of Oklahoma even, right? Into this immersive fantasy land. And it's something that, when we conclude an event like this, the planners walk out and the guests walk out and they're stunned. They didn't have any idea that was even possible. So it's so fun. And I just, we're kind of limited. We're not limited, right? Just only by our own creativity. So I think it's a really exciting time.
I agree. I think every year, being in product management for a while, every year there is a gimmick. Micah kind of said it, that you don't. This year it's drone shows, and before it was mapping, and mapping still, it's kind of coming back. It's interesting. We're seeing a lot more mapping projects and requests, but keeping up with those technologies and also understanding how to effectively apply those to meet the messaging standards. And it's for me, being able to balance that has been super important. I do feel like LED technology is kind of where it's at right now. The push to get rid of projection screens and 31K projectors and just getting out of that that mode and going into let's just build an LED wall, or let's build multiple LED walls, or let's just build a giant LED wall with a bunch of pips in it. That mentality is really taken storm, and we're in a place now where we're essentially wallpapering ballrooms with LED and then painting that canvas with messaging, and I think that's where I see the future of content going for at least a little while. You'll have your drone shows, and you'll have the Froggy's Fog stuff is a great example of your olfactory senses bring back the most memories out of all of your senses. So if you smell something at a meeting and then all of a sudden you smell it later, it's going to bring back everything from that meeting. So it's a huge sell for them. And I think just LED being the technology that's taking over the world right now, we're going to see a lot of improvements, and we're going to see a lot of that in ballrooms, going not just in arenas and stadiums and outdoor. They're already in ballrooms, and we're going to see bigger and better systems.
So I know we're kind of wrapping up here. So for these next couple of minutes, I just wanted to ask you guys, where can people find you after we close this event? Are you guys active on LinkedIn, or do you prefer email? So I just wanted to go around and have you guys say where people can connect with you after this. Micah, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm active on LinkedIn. You can certainly find me. It's Micah Crodell on LinkedIn, and that you can certainly navigate to our company website, find my email and all contact information there. Would love to connect with you.
Awesome. Tasha, what about you?
I work for a hotel here in Oklahoma. My email is tasha.hauk@hilton.com. Pretty easy to remember. And then I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's Tasha Hauk Barnett on LinkedIn. That's my full married name. So you can look me up.
Awesome. Mark, what about you?
I love LinkedIn. I'm on it all the time. I love connecting. I love putting people on pedestals that do great jobs. I love if I find, diamonds in the rough, sharing those. I think LinkedIn is a great tool, and I'm very active on there. That's probably the best place to get a hold of me. Almost better than email. So I'm very active on there. I love connecting with folks.
Very cool. Well, if anyone is watching wants to connect with everyone here, we have linked their LinkedIns to their headshots below. So go ahead and scroll down and click on them, link with all of them. So thank you guys so much. This has been so informative. I know I learned a lot, and I think our audience has too. So thank you guys so much for joining this. It was fantastic.
Thank you, Steph.
Of course, I'm going to bring Gary back on to help me close out the day.